We are Geeks and Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince.
It's time for the final part of the second Multi-Topic Extravaganza. Ready to jump right into it, Vince? We are going to answer, I'm talking really fast right now because we are going to answer as many questions of yours as we can in the next half hour. Here we go. Ready?
Let's do this thing.
Here we go. We're probably not going to act like that the whole time because that would be irritating and I would probably, fall over and back.
Everything will be one-word answers.
Our first question comes from the Quasar Phantom, who says, I'm just here watching some of your videos, oh, aren't you sweet, and thought, isn't Deadpool a ripoff of Deathstroke? So that's the question. Is Deadpool a ripoff of Deathstroke? That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that, but maybe.
Oh my goodness. Deathstroke.
Deathstroke the Terminator. DC.
Okay, because I was trying to remember the guy from Marvel who's like part cyborg. I'm like, wait, that guy?
No, that's Deathlock.
Deathlock, right.
Yes. Deathstroke's a DC character. Deathstroke is,
okay, I know who Deathstroke
Slade
is
Wilson?
now. Yeah.
Yeah, Deathstroke.
Yeah.
Except that, of course, he doesn't have the whole jokey, jovial thing going on.
I would say that no, he's not a ripoff. There we go.
You don't think so?
Not really.
Maybe visually a little bit.
I mean, I suppose so, but then again, Deadpool's also sort of, if you look at him visually, add some katanas to Spider-Man and you have Deadpool. So
yeah. Now, does Deathstroke have? I don't know much about him. He's just not a character I know much about. Does he have superpowers?
I think he does.
Because if he couldn't die, then probably. But if he can die, then probably.
I know he's a really effective hitman, but other than that, I don't know much about him.
That's all I know about him too.
He made an interesting villain for the Teen Titans TV show. Whenever that show was interesting.
Well, this is an interesting question to bring up for people who know more than us to talk about in the comments.
You stumped us. Good job.
Yeah, well done. Lego Geek 400671 asks, what exactly does one do with all those... Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped the para. My question is, what is the best way to get rid of older comics from the 90s, or just comics you have in trade paperback, but you don't want the back issues? There's some people who do this, where they have the back issues, and then they bought the trades because they prefer reading in trades, and that's how they want to collect it. So what exactly does one do with all those issues, and what is the best thing to do with them?
Well, you could sell them.
And there's naturally lots of avenues to do that.
Around here, you have. Well, yeah, go ahead.
Well, eBay works very well, assuming that you have runs. If you have a full miniseries and runs, you can probably do okay on eBay. Various strategies for that, and I can talk you through stuff if you have any questions about it. If you ever want to do that, obviously, I do eBay full time, and so I'm around and I'm happy to answer questions about it.
If you have a significant number of them, you might take them to a comic book store and they'll buy out your runs. I mean, you buy out your how many you have.
Yeah, they usually won't give you a whole lot for them.
Yeah.
But if you're just trying to drop them off, if you're just trying to get rid of them.
If you're just trying to get rid of a few that aren't necessarily pricey, you're not going to get a lot for them, but you can go to places like Half Price Books and Vintage Stock and things that are maybe not local to the Midwest.
And if you just have a smattering of random issues, like where nobody wants them, or you can't really, you can always send them to us to the PO box. We take stuff and review them on stuff. So yeah,
pay you for that.
Well, and I do buy comics. So I mean there's that. I do buy for the Comic Vault also. So I mean, and this is not just a plug for that, but I mean I'm a resource. So if you If you happen to have stuff that you're trying to get rid of and you think maybe I'd want to buy it either to resell or one of us for our own personal collection, feel free to send us personal messages. We do. This sounds like an obnoxious plug, but we do. That is something we happen to do here. It's part of the whole Geekvolution thing. We do buy and sell comics, or at least I buy and sell comics. Yeah.
I'm going to break your hearts, but I'm going to recommend it anyway.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
If your comics aren't particularly valuable, you might consider making craft projects out of them.
Well, I'll tell you, I've done a little bit of that. I know everybody's like, what? I have gotten things in before where I've gotten a super amount of duplicates, where I've just got 100 or something. I can't get rid of them. More importantly, water-damaged books. What do you do with those, you know? Sometimes when I buy out collections, I end up with some water-damaged books, and Sarah and I do craft projects with them. Nobody wants them, especially when they're hardly readable, but you can kind of do things with them, that sort of thing. If it's something I've already got and I don't want to keep, or something I can't sell, sometimes I'll do various things with them.
I've seen people make magnets. Mm-hmm. I've seen people make mugs and buttons and notebooks and
all kinds of cool stuff.
All sorts of things.
But yeah, don't feel sad, especially if they're already damaged. You might as well do something with them.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving right on. But that's a great question. I wanted to answer that because I figured there were people who might be other people who might need to know that sort of thing.
Collage, a giant poster.
Did you mention vintage stock? Anybody
Yeah.
who has a vintage stock close?
Yeah.
That's a really good resource. Okay, Scottish Ninja. That's great. Scottish Ninja asks, who do you guys... But like, you wouldn't want to play a bagpipe and try to sneak up on people. See, that's... Scottish Ninja asks, who do you guys think is the most threatening Batman villain and why? Have we answered this before?
The most threatening?
The most threatening? I apologize if we've answered this already. I'm going back to some of the older questions again.
The most threatening was a little-known villain named the Threatener, who stood back and said, "I'm going to get you every day! What else can I threaten?"
Ironically, he was actually the least threatening.
This is true.
He was threatening in that he kept... Anyway.
Exactly. Least dangerous, most threatening.
See, that's...
He doesn't exist, for those of you who just went...
So when you're talking about threatening in the sense of dangerous, so many Batman villains are dangerous in different ways. So I'm going to answer this question this way: which Batman villain scares you the most? If you ran into this villain in a dark alley based on stories that you've read, like which one's impacted you the hardest? I'm going with Penguin, man. Penguin freaks me out. Yeah, freaks me out.
The one that freaked me out the most, and I think this was mostly in context of the animated series, was Clayface. His mental torment was just so freaky to me. Like, if there was an Arkham break and I suddenly ran into that guy, even if he wasn't big and scary looking like he was in Arkham City or something like that, I would still freak out just a little bit knowing who that was. I was like, oh my god, that guy's crazy.
Yeah, and actually, I would say that even just the definition he's using of threatening, that's a good answer. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
That guy's highly dangerous.
How do you beat that guy? I mean,
as it turns out, ice bombs.
You gotta have a bunch of water around. What are you gonna do? Yeah, exactly. All right. Do heroes have to have tragic past to be good heroes?
Yes.
Talmiz 101. I think we should do an episode on that. If we haven't. At some point.
Every one of them has to have a tragic past. That's why I go into comics and I kill their parents, just in case. You can't just have somebody with a nice wholesome history. Well, I grew up in the Midwest, ate corn every day.
How do you manage to just become someone's backstory? That's amazing. Wow. Is that your superpower? Mm-hmm. You can go into a comic book and become someone's tragic past?
Yeah, but just comics. Those guys in the movies get to escape it for now. I'll find a way.
No, of course not. Of course not. A lot of them, you need motivation, and motivation can come from all kinds of things. Why do so many of them have that? Because being a superhero is an extreme lifestyle, and so
it takes a lot of dedication.
Dedication, yeah, and especially when we're talking about the kinds of stories, especially more recent, these days, where most of the stories don't treat the superhero lifestyle as the most glamorous thing in the world, where like people do get hurt and bad things happen to them. Well, it seems like you would need some really extreme past to even be interested in putting yourself on the line like that and getting hurt all the time, because that's what would happen to you. You would get hurt all the time. So then, what other kinds of motivations can you have? You do have some characters who just have the motivation of it seems glamorous, and so they just go out and do it. And then some of those people, you'd figure, okay, well, they'd quit doing it after they got the crap beat out of them. And then some of them say, well, but I care about people and I want to help people, and it still seems like a good idea to me. And so you just have to make it work,
I agree with what he's saying. I also think that I'll say this: that one of the reasons that they become so notorious for having tragic pasts is because to really experience something or to really want those things to not happen to other people, it makes sense that you would have experienced them yourself. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I just read a comic today where a guy says, I don't want... Like, what happened to this person is the same thing that happened to me. It was literally in the comic. So, yeah.
There's also always atonement, where not the tragic past in the sense of somebody hurt me really bad or somebody hurt my family really bad, but I hurt people.
Like Venom.
And so I'm trying to atone for it.
Prior to the Mac Gargan stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like the most obvious character for that is somebody like Angel. But characters who become selfless because they used to be so selfish that they just took advantage of people. That kind of thing. Sabroth asks, should Nintendo go Sega and just stick to software, being so far behind with their console technology? Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. I don't think so.
Well, I think a lot of us PS3 people and Xbox people start looking at the Wii and go, ooh, you're not as technologically sound. Mm-hmm. Well, regardless of whether or not the
You don't have technological sound.
There's just a guy there with a piano.
There's just a string attached to it with a can somewhere out there.
Beneath the pale moonlight. But there's a reference half of us are going to get. But no, Nintendo's doing well for itself. I mean, more people buy Wiis than buy Xbox or PS3. I mean,
is that true?
Yeah. Well,
I don't think that's true.
More people buy Wiis from where I work.
Okay. No, but I'm just saying, on the whole, I don't think that that's necessarily true.
I know more people bought the Wii when they first came out.
That's true.
But I sell more Wiis than I do anything else.
But I'm just saying there are certain. But regardless of whether they're outselling anything, I don't want to make that claim not having the numbers in front of us.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's all I'm saying. I mean, I don't mean to contradict you, but I'm just saying I don't know. I'd want to have the numbers to just come right out and say that. But they're certainly doing fine for themselves. So yeah, I mean the thing with Sega was they had to quit not because they were behind technologically. They weren't behind technologically. They were ahead almost always. The Dreamcast, as far as I know, it was the first major system that had online play capability. That was 1998, guys. They didn't fail. They almost failed more because they were ahead of the time. Where they were at the time, some of the things that they were trying to do came across to people as too gimmicky, and they weren't they weren't cheap. All of their systems past the Genesis were really expensive, and so they just couldn't compete. Other companies came in and gave people what they wanted for cheaper, and so
like Nintendo.
There you go, exactly. I also think that you're right that Nintendo was behind in certain departments, but they at the time that the Wii came out, they gave people something that they didn't have yet. Now you can talk, and we've talked about this before. You can talk about how their motion control gaming wasn't what it should have been before they released it. At the very least, the Wii Motion Plus thing, they should have waited until they had that already built into the controller, so they didn't have to add that, all that sort of stuff. But
they did that with the 64 to have something you have to plug into your system.
They did. Regardless of all of that, though, it was filling a void. It was putting something out before anybody else put it out. We didn't have motion control gaming yet, and it doesn't matter that the 360 and the PlayStation 3 are now doing it better than Nintendo was. The Nintendo is still known as the system that does that. I mean, they were too late to the party, I think. And again, I don't work in video game retail anymore like I used to, so I don't know the numbers now. I haven't been paying attention to how well the PlayStation Move is selling and how well the Kinect is selling, but as far as I know, it's been underwhelming for both of those companies. But I could be wrong with 360. Maybe it's doing well. I don't know. I'm out of the loop now.
We sell Kinects pretty regularly.
Do you? Okay, I'm out of the loop.
Kinects pretty regularly.
I'm out of the loop. I'll tell you, I kind of wanted one, but they're just more expensive than I feel like paying. My thing is, I'm like, $150. I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna use it enough. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, I could buy it, but then I also gotta buy the games, and they're $60 a piece, and like, I'm just sort of like, am I gonna use it? So I figured a lot of people were probably like me with that, but. Alright, Simply Woodenly asks, should directors give fans what they want, or should directors not care how fans respond to their work? Boy, that's a loaded question, isn't it? That's probably another whole show, but we'll attack it briefly.
I think directors should shoot to make a good movie with the fans in mind. I think that keeping people in mind, saying, well, this is what they want, what can we make a good movie out of that, if that's going to be a factor. I don't think that you necessarily need to cater to the fans, but they're going to influence your movie anyway, so you might as well consider them in some direction. You know what I mean?
I am going to say case-by-case basis. It depends so much on what you're doing, man. We can't... I mean, yeah, we talk a lot about adaptations and superhero films here, but like, you can't always. I mean, not everything is an adaptation or a remake. Okay, almost everything is at this point. But I'm just saying that like even if something is an adaptation, if it's a relatively unknown thing that it was adapted from, which happens still frequently, you can't assume there already are fans. I mean, like who are we catering to? If we're talking about catering, so. So I'm just waiting because I'm assuming there's going to be a food joke. Oh, hold on. No, because I said catering, so I figured there'd be a food joke. See, I've gotten to where I think I can kind of guess Vince is about to make a pun, but I guess I was wrong on that one. Okay, whatever.
Oh, catering.
Anyway, that was good.
Oh, flaws.
Oh, flaws. Anyway, sorry, my timer went off prematurely. I had to reset it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I think that you have to make a, you have to go somewhere in the middle. You know, you got to make what you want to make,
exactly.
And you got to make something you think people are going to like. You know, what do you do? I think that a really good director has an idea of what at least some people like, because he's a person too. You know, the directors I like the most seem to just make what they like, where they're not all that worried about what everybody else likes. And the thing is, like what does that mean? Okay, well, most of us like a story that makes sense and doesn't have a bazillion plot holes and has characters that we care about with motivations who are proactive, yada yada yada. I think that that some people get confused when writers say, because I've read this in a lot of writing books. You know, write what you know and write what you like. And people say, well, what you like is not necessarily what other people like, but at least to the point of I like a good story. You know what I'm saying? I think what happens sometimes is, or maybe a lot of the time, is that you have directors who aren't concerned with story and they're concerned much more with these elements need to be here to get people into the movie theater, and those become chopped up and like pieced together things that are no longer stories. Now they're just movies. You know?
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to compare two movies here real quick. Dark Knight versus Spider-Man 3. Both, in some ways, catered to their audience.
Sure.
Because they know that people like Joker movies, and they know that people like, well, Joker stories, let me say that, and people like Venom stories. One's different than the other. One was intended to make a good movie, and the other one was trying to put Venom into a movie that already existed. So, catering to your fans versus making a good movie that does cater to your fans. Make sense?
Mediascope Review asks, are there too many types of kryptonite?
Yes.
Yes. Talmiz 101 asks, is it fair to expect people with superpowers to become superheroes or villains? I like this question. I actually think, and once again, maybe this is show-worthy, but
you know, Ultimate X-Men. They did
just
that whole
because
thing.
somebody has superpowers doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to do one or the other. You know, I totally agree with this, and the answer is no.
It is Ultimate Spider-Man. They did in one of the Ultimate books where a guy says, look, just because I have superpowers doesn't mean that I have to go out there and hit people. I mean, I just want to be a normal kid. Why do I have to fight?
And what if you don't have that great of a power?
Yeah.
You know, there are lots of degrees of superpowers. A lot of your really obscure characters, you know, I've been noticing a pattern in Obscure Character of the Week with Comic Book Late Night, and that is, a lot of them have really crappy powers, and that's why they're such obscure characters and end up with really hokey backgrounds. And a lot of them end up being henchmen where they're like, I have a superpower, so I have to go put on a costume. And it's like, no, you don't. Uman347 asks, why do comic book writers keep making Spider-Man physically weaker? Or do you think they are making him weaker, and do you think the video games and movies influence that at all? I've never noticed that.
Maybe it's because there's villains that are getting significantly stronger.
You think that's what it is?
Maybe, Spider-Man, I don't know, I think Spider-Man's strength is kind of like Superman's speed, Or even the Hulk speed.
Or even Superman's strength, which fluctuates.
Or Batman's brilliance, sometimes the Batman has to go talk to the Riddler to figure out something that's obvious. Sometimes Spider-Man can't lift a car in one scene when he can lift it in another.
He has what he needs for the story to work.
Yeah, sometimes the Thing can lift an entire Ferris wheel, but he can't. He struggles to pull a fire engine back onto the bridge.
Do you think characters? That's a good point. Yeah. Do you think characters also kind of change a little bit? Sometimes when they're on teams. You know what I mean? Like Spider-Man's an Avenger now, and so now he needs other people to help him solve things when he's on a team because there's other people there. Whereas the exact same situation, if he was in his own book, maybe he wouldn't need any help. So
Spider-Man and Luke Cage are on a team. Well, Luke Cage has to be the stronger one. Spider-Man can't be a strong guy.
I'm not sure about video games influencing that.
Video games are a big culprit of that. I mean, it really annoys me.
I think that happens in video games. I'm just not sure that has any influence or bearing on the comics at all.
I don't know. I think people tend to get in their heads like the way things are in movies. Like, for example, when Ang Lee's Hulk came out, one of the big complaints that I heard a lot of people that I knew complaining about was the Hulk was really fast. Like, how can the Hulk be that fast? He's super strong. Mm-hmm. He can move his own mass. how can he not be fast? And they say, well, he wasn't that way.
He's huge. He lumbers. Yeah.
They're like, but he wasn't that way in the TV series. I'm like, that's a different continuity.
It's a different thing. Yeah.
This is closer to the comics than the TV show was.
He also wasn't as big.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that the TV show didn't have its own merits. I'm saying that why should one thing be limited to the limits of another? So that's one of the things that annoys me is that people say, oh, this guy's too strong, so we're going to have to make everybody look weak. No! Make that guy look stronger than everybody else. Anyway, it's also for like dramatic timing and stuff. They say, hey, we want this guy to be really dramatic, we're doing something really dramatic right now, and if he's too strong, it defeats the purpose. Well, come up with something more interesting, I guess.
Yoda with sunglasses asks, I have a topic. Should the Joker have an origin or stay a mystery?
I think it's good the way it is, having like 3 or 4 origins.
I think it depends.
Origins.
Again, it always depends on the continuity. Joker's like Batman, you know. Batman has a whole lot of. There's a lot of different kinds of Batman.
Or Wolverine.
And I mean, yeah, Batman usually has the same backstory. Wolverine.
Yeah, Wolverine has like 3 or 4 backstories.
True, but I'm talking about. I'm talking about something different. I'm talking about how Batman. There are lots of different versions of Batman. There are lots of different versions of Joker, and therefore it only stands to reason that the backgrounds can change. I mean, with Batman, we usually have at least his parents got killed thing, but with Joker, we usually have he got dropped in a vat of acid thing. Sometimes who he was before he was dropped in the vat is a little bit different, and sometimes we don't even know at all where he came from. But for the most part, it's usually Batman dropped him in a vat of acid, or somebody dropped him in a vat of acid. He tripped and fell, and he fell in a vat of acid, and now he's the Joker. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying that the main core thing is usually there. I think for me personally, I like it better when we don't know. I didn't like. I was okay with the fact that we knew who he was in '89, but I didn't like the fact that he was responsible for Batman's parents' death. I thought that was too easy.
A little convenient.
It was too convenient. That's the only thing I don't like about it. It wasn't all, that's not how they did it in the comics, so I don't like it. It was just that it was too convenient. So I much prefer the what I think is more clever Dark Knight method of the Joker tells you all these different kind of contradicting backgrounds, so you never know if any of them are true. I think that's super fun.
Yeah.
But he even had somewhat of a background in the animated series, which was okay. You know, they didn't even keep that a total mystery. So
I wouldn't mind if they came up with something and said, this is the definitive one. I wouldn't care either way. It would still, people would still write him like he didn't have it.
Oh, sure. Exactly. So, yeah. You can't make anything definitive.
Yeah.
You know?
Unless it's the definitive Blues Brothers collection.
And especially in DC, they'll just reboot your universe.
Exactly.
You know? So
and they'll call you Shazam whether you like it or not.
And they'll give you a hood.
My name's Wonder Woman. You're Shazam!
Shazam! Shazam!
And lightning hits, and Thor wins, and...
Authentically Awkward asks, why... I'm just going to start going around and randomly say, Authentically Awkward.
I like it.
Really?
It's a cool name.
Why are some TV shows and movies that are supposed to be for kids still have inappropriate things in them anyway? I think maybe we've answered this. I forget.
Sometimes they're clever and they sneak them in, and kids wouldn't get them anyway. I suppose that's sort of undervaluing a kid's ability to understand adult things, but sometimes I really don't think kids will get them anyway. But why do they do it? Because somebody gets them and it gets past the censors. I know one of the things that they said, this is a kid's show or anything, but one of the things they said about Saturday Night Live was we had the censors so distracted and coked up or something. I forget what they said.
We coked them.
They said we just tried to do our best to keep the censors distracted so that we could get the things on screen that we really wanted to get on screen. So
then after a while they just didn't have them anymore, as far as I can tell.
Like Saturday Night Live in the 70s had male prostitutes on there. Well, not real male prostitutes, but it's about sneaking things in past the censors. They can get away with a little more. Anyway,
Vacumina asks, why do you guys not like Transformers? I've always been a fan of it all my life, and you guys are the first people I've run into that don't like it. So basically, this is just pure curiosity on my part.
It's not. You like it, right?
I'm not against it.
Yeah. See,
I just am not a fan. It's one of those things where look, you don't have to be a fan of everything. You know what I mean? I don't know very much about it. Robots don't usually extremely jazz me. You know what I mean? Just like it's a story about a bunch of robots. And so I don't just like gravitate toward it. Transformers is not something I would have watched when I was a kid. It just wouldn't even have occurred to me to get into it. You know what I mean? It was a toy I would have played with, but it wasn't something I would have just really. I didn't grow up with it, and I wouldn't have thought to really watch it. I don't think so. I don't know. So yeah, it hasn't been until recent years that I've realized that there were even a lot of people my age who were giant Transformers fans. I was like, or were within the general vicinity of my age, where I was like, really? There's like a huge fan base for Transformers. Like I didn't even know this for the longest time. So yeah, it's just not something I've ever really looked that hard into, to be honest with you. So yeah, I don't dislike it.
See, he doesn't like it, or it's not that he doesn't like it. For me, I don't like it.
Oh, you don't like it? Oh,
I really don't like it. All right. Here's the deal. A lot of those 80s cartoon shows...
I haven't done any research, so I might like it, I might not. I don't know.
See, when I was a kid, there was this group of cartoon shows, the nexus of cartoon shows that I would watch. And Transformers, and Thundercats, and Turtles, and Ghostbusters.
Oh, sorry, I didn't say ho, because you said Thundercats.
And all these things were wrapped up in a big, nice ball.
My wife has decided she likes Thundercats.
Really?
Yeah, like she had never really seen or really heard of Thundercats, but then like she was in
the new show or the old show?
Well, she was in St. Louis and she saw something that was Thundercats. I don't remember if it was the new one or the old one, but she came in and she's like, "Hey, Captain Logan," because my wife calls me Captain Logan. She was like, "Did you ever seen Thundercats?" It's like, "Yeah, I don't really like Thundercats." She's like, "What are you talking about? Thundercats is awesome." I was like, "Really? All right."
Yeah. See,
sorry.
So I didn't like it because, looking back on my childhood, there are things that I like that I just can't stand anymore. I don't like the original Ninja Turtles cartoon show. I don't like the original Thundercats cartoon show. I don't like the original Transformers cartoon show or G.I. Joe. They're just too locked in the decade that they were. They're 80s cartoon shows, and it's obvious, and I can't stand that style. However, Ghostbusters I still enjoy. Moving on. The Transformers, it's hard for me to buy a living machine. Now, that being said, I like things like Short Circuit. So, it's just, for me, Transformers has to be something that's a little funny, a little tongue-in-cheek, and
you don't want to take it super serious.
Yeah, and when I'm looking at stuff from those cartoon shows from the 80s, they're intended for kids, and it's not something that I really... I don't know, I'm not explaining this very well. I'm trying to move quickly so we can get on to the next topic. But.
And I've tried to look at it in comics, and every panel looks the same to me. Mm. Like, I just have a tough time. It seems like something that doesn't translate real well to comics to me. I don't know. And I know there are a lot of really popular Transformers comics, but I guess it's just because I'm not real familiar with it. Where, like, I pop that open, and like, my brain doesn't compute. I'm just like, there's a lot of metal. You know? I mean, I'm looking at these, at these giant contraptions with word balloons over what is supposed to be their heads. And they just look like very, very, very huge misshapen things, and sometimes I can't really tell, like, where one starts and another one begins. I just have a difficult time. I'm like, I don't know where the narrative is. You know what I mean? I'm trying to latch onto this. Well, let's see if we get through a couple more before we have to quit here. Mega Explained to You says, why do you think there are not as many Western type of movies nowadays? Well, I gotta tell you, I think Westerns are making a comeback. Yeah, so I'm not sure I even agree with the question. I think that it's more, why weren't they popular for a while? But they're starting to make a comeback. So.
I think Westerns back in the day...
But I think it's because nostalgia's in, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, Westerns are making a comeback because people go, simpler time, that kind of thing, and so we're making more Westerns now. But anyway, sorry, again.
I think Westerns back in the day, and I don't know this for certain, so don't quote me, but I think Westerns back in the day were...
There's a balloon over what's supposed to be your head.
Yeah. I think Westerns back in the day were a little bit easier to make. I mean, you can develop a big set, like here's a cow town, and you can reuse a lot of stuff. So, back in the day, making movies was different than making movies now. That's how it works in my head. So Westerns were a little bit more, convenient to make. People liked Westerns then. They were still coming out of the Western-type age. So
sure, yeah, exactly.
If you're going to make a big war movie, you need to have a lot of props and a lot of vehicles. But if you're making a Western, you just need to have a lot of horses.
I'll tell you, though, you're partially right about that as far as just, like maybe why not as many of them got made. But as far as why the popularity, because the popularity certainly waned, and it wasn't just because people quit making them. Mm-hmm. If there was demand, there would have been supply. Yeah,
I think things got flashier, so it made them less interested in them.
I agree with Toy Story. Toy Story says when spacemen come in, cowboys leave, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
To at least a degree. I think that Toy Story was making a point with the little boy who used to have the cowboy doll. He was simpler when he was littler, and then as space toys got more popular, he wanted all the complicated bells and whistles and stuff. When science fiction got bigger and bigger, westerns started going farther and farther away. And I think that's a really cool analogy they did in that movie for something that actually happened in the history of our country. So I don't know. I to at least to a degree think that part of what killed that was the science fiction craze. I really think that had something to do with it.
Yeah. Well, when more money gets flooded into something, they can make more things happen. So, yes. Green Lantern happens, and then again, westerns don't.
Yeah, okay. All right.
That's sad.
I'm not going to argue with you, but okay. Zazubar says, do you guys think a Superman Batman World's Finest live-action movie can still be made? But more importantly, can it be made well? Well, I'm going to start off with, I don't need that myself. You know what I mean?
What was it?
Like,
World's Finest?
Yeah, a Batman Superman movie.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't need it. You know what I mean? But yeah, the question wasn't do we want to see it. I just thought I'd throw that out there real quick. The question was not do we want to see it, but can it be made well? I suppose. I don't know. I don't know why not. I mean, like there. Surely, sometime in the future, we will finally have a live action Justice League movie, and when that happens, you'll have Batman and Superman on screen together. So yeah, I mean.
I don't quite understand this need.
If you can make Avengers work, you can put Superman and Batman on screen together. I mean, you've got superpowered and non-superpowered people all on a team together. Now that I've seen really good trailers for Avengers, I'm like, anything superhero can be done now. That looks amazing, So I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose it could be made well. I just don't really see this dramatic need to have them in the movie together. I don't really care. Like, Avengers looks cool, but had it never been made, I would have been okay.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
If Justice League never gets made, I'll be okay.
Yep, me too.
So,
but I'm not a big team guy. Yeah. I just have never been a huge team guy. And so, yeah, Superman and Batman is an extremely interesting dichotomy. And I like it in comics and animation and stuff, but it's just not that big of a deal to me to see it in live action. I think casting the right actors, I'll say this, casting the right actors that would play off of each other correctly would be really difficult in that sense. What I would not want to see would be whatever Superman franchise was going on at the time meets whatever Batman franchise is going on at the time. I'm really glad there was all this talk with Superman Returns and Begins and Dark Knight, and I'm really glad that never happened. Those worlds don't seem like they could even be the same universe. I don't want it to look like a crossover movie. You see, does that make sense? Yeah. I want it to be, they were always in the same universe, you know what I mean? I don't want it to be like Freddy vs. Jason or, Aliens vs. Predator. Batman and Superman in the comics are already in the same universe, you know what I mean? And we've not yet had the two universes, the Batman one and the Superman one, that looked like they could have been the same world.
So what if in the future they made the two movies with the intent of crossing them over?
Could work. Could work. No, could totally work. It has not happened yet. Let's do one more. Someone else is going to get their question answered. The Chosen Critic asks, will we ever have another movie series as big as Harry Potter? And my question is, when you say big, do you mean where you have a bunch of movies that all make huge loads of money, or that we get a 7 or 8 film franchise starring mostly the same actors? Because I'm not sure we'll ever see that happen again. At the moment, there's not a property for it. That's the thing, is that there's just not really a property for it.
I think it'll happen again.
Do you?
Yeah. I don't necessarily know that we can count on when it's going to happen, but yeah, I think it'll happen again.
Well, I just think that somebody would have to. I mean, it gets really complicated. Somebody would have to make the thing that it got adapted to that was already in a format. You see what I'm saying? Because the reason it happened with Harry Potter was because you had a certain number of books that were telling a story that went through a certain period of time, and you had to knock them out as quickly as you could so that you could use the same actors. You see what I'm saying? There was talk early on that they were going to change the entire cast over midway through, and luckily that didn't end up having to happen. But you've got a 7-book series that takes place over the span of 7 years, and they managed to get the movies done within 10 to 11. That's pretty impressive. I'm not sure we'll ever see that again. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you can't have 8 to 10 to 20 to 30 movie franchises. We have that happen all the time. I'm talking about using the same actors and having it be the same franchise all the way through. I don't know. I'm not sure we'll ever see it again.
Yeah.
That was what I'm saying is that was a really special case what was built in already. You know what I mean? Like, name me another property that caps off at like 8 or something. You know what I'm saying? That would be popular enough to keep making. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I can't name it right now, but I just feel like it's going to happen again because I feel like people are trying to make it happen again. There's a reason.
No, people are trying to make it, and that's why. That's precisely why I don't think it's going to.
Yeah, I mean, they're
trying too hard. This happened with Lost. As soon as Lost ended, ABC was trying like mad to get another show that would be like that. That would be all mysterious and would get would get people making theories and stuff, and they were trying too hard, and so they did like 2 or 3 different shows. They had the event, and that failed, and they had Flash Forward, and that failed. And it never worked. So good luck. Because the thing about it is there are lots of book series. And it wouldn't necessarily have to be based on a book series, I suppose. But I'm just saying that, like, there are book series that have, like, a set number that are, like, a lot, but none popular enough to get made more than 2 or 3 times. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what ends up happening. I just think that we had a really bizarre sweet spot with Harry Potter where it ended up being a phenomenon before it was a film franchise, and that doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like it's going to happen again, not necessarily that there's one existing right now that will.
Yeah.
So,
well, it would be cool if it did, but...
Yeah. Especially if it was as good as Harry Potter is.
Yeah, it's just what happens is Hollywood likes to, formalize things. And as soon as you try to formalize it, it fails. Like that's what I'm saying is that like so what'll happen now is you'll have all these authors that we're going to write 7 books, we're gonna get them made into these huge. Yeah, no, it won't work.
There's a lot of people that say stuff like that. Like for example, Skylanders are huge right now. You know what Skylanders are? Mm-hmm. And I heard somebody say the other day.
I didn't know they were popular though.
See, that's how you get rich. Yeah. They sell like loads of them.
I didn't realize that.
But I've heard people say, you see, that's what you got to do. You got to invent the next one of those things. I'm like, yeah, 1 million people have. The difference is that only one gets famous. Pokemon is really cool, but then you have Digimon, and people are like, wait, what's Digimon? I mean, although Digimon did have its fame. Anyway.
Well, it's not about... That's the thing that people don't understand, especially that Hollywood doesn't understand, is that it's not a matter of making the thing that's like that. It's about making the thing that isn't like anything else. You know what I mean? Or at least you can trick people into thinking it's not like anything else. I mean, Harry Potter is extremely derivative, but in a good way. You know what I mean? It's not like that's the most original thing we've ever seen. There are a lot of really amusing anecdotes running around about how the plot of the first Harry Potter is pretty much the plot of Star Wars, and it gets really interesting because it basically is. But we talk about this in writing all the time. That's because it's a formula, and then you mask it with decent storytelling, And Harry Potter has that for the most part. Actually, some of them have that.
Not every Harry Potter has.
I wasn't a huge fan of how it ended, but other than that,
yeah, it was okay.
But anyway, well, I think that the last film was executed really well. I just don't think the story was that good. It was too much like the Matrix Revolutions for me. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching Geeks Not Nerds. This is the final part of this round of multi-topic extravaganzas. We'll probably come back with one of these again in a few months, probably 4, 5, 6 months down the road. If we missed your questions, we will save some of them. If you have anything down the line you want to send us to do a show on, of course, send us those. And if we don't get to them on a show, they might pop up in a multi-topic extravaganza. Thanks as always for watching. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince, reminding you to support your local comic book store.